Have you ever looked at someone and thought, nothing seems to shake them? No matter what's happening, they're calm, collected, unbothered. While the world screams, they stay silent. While others panic, they walk forward like they've already seen the storm and made peace with it. You wonder, how do they do it? Were they born that way? Or did they train for it? In this video, we'll uncover the timeless blueprint that makes this inner strength possible, drawn straight from Stoic philosophy and the teachings of Jesus. This isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about becoming so grounded, so clear, that nothing disturbs you. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned what truly matters. You'll learn 10 powerful lessons to protect your peace, overcome overthinking, and rise above the chaos without losing your soul in the process. If you've been craving peace in a noisy world, clarity in emotional storms, or faith in times of fear, this is your roadmap. Before we begin, if you're ready to stop reacting to everything and start mastering yourself, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive in.
Number 1.
View obstacles as opportunities. Most people panic when life throws something unexpected their way. They see obstacles as threats, roadblocks that ruin plans, break spirits, and drain hope. But the Stoics saw it differently. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This wasn't a poetic flourish. It was his daily battle cry. As emperor, he faced betrayals, wars, plagues, and personal loss. Yet instead of breaking under pressure, he leaned into the adversity, using it to sharpen his character and deepen his wisdom. Every obstacle to him was not a crisis. It was a divine invitation to rise. Now, this mindset shift isn't about blind optimism or pretending everything is fine. It's about training your mind to see what's possible instead of what's lost. Jesus, too, transformed suffering into purpose. He didn't avoid hardship. He walked straight into it, knowing that pain often carries hidden meaning. He said, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." These words weren't spoken from a place of comfort. They were born from the deepest place of trial and clarity, a place only found on the other side of real pain. And yet through them, he taught us this: you're not defined by what you suffer, but by how you respond. This wisdom cuts against the grain of our modern conditioning. Today, we're trained to avoid discomfort at all costs. We numb it, medicate it, scroll it away. We want smooth roads, guaranteed outcomes, easy wins. But smooth roads don't create strong legs. Obstacles are not interruptions of the path. They are the path. And when you begin to reframe every difficulty as a forge, not a wall, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your soul. Consider Thomas Edison. When his entire laboratory burned to the ground, taking years of work with it, he didn't collapse. He didn't curse the heavens or blame the system. He said, "Thank God all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh." That is a Stoic response. Not because he didn't feel the loss, but because he chose to interpret it in a way that gave him power rather than stripped it away. As Epictetus taught, it's not things that disturb us, but our opinion about things. So, what does this look like for you, right now in real life? It means that when someone betrays you, instead of collapsing into resentment, you ask, what truth did this expose? When your plans fall apart, you ask, what lesson is this teaching me that comfort never could? When delays frustrate you, ask, is this a call to patience, faith, or creativity? And if you're thinking this sounds exhausting, consider this. It's far more exhausting to remain bitter. Pain is inevitable. Staying powerless is optional. The Stoics didn't eliminate difficulty. They eliminated unnecessary suffering by changing their relationship to it. You begin to live with a quiet inner question. How can this make me better, not bitter? Because like Marcus Aurelius and like Christ, you come to understand this timeless truth. Adversity doesn't block the path. It is the path. Walk it with courage, and you'll emerge not broken, but reborn.
Number 2.
Don't suffer imaginary pains. There's a quiet kind of suffering that eats away at you. Not from reality, but from imagination. You lie awake at night playing out scenarios that haven't happened. You rehearse arguments that may never come. You stress over outcomes that aren't even real yet. And without knowing it, you've become a prisoner of your own thoughts. The Stoics warned us about this trap centuries ago. Seneca, the Roman philosopher and statesman, wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." These words weren't meant to sound wise. They were meant to free you. Think about it. How many times have you dreaded a conversation that turned out fine? How often do you replay the past and forecast disaster into the future? We imagine illnesses, betrayals, failures, things that haven't happened and may never happen. Yet the mind responds as if they're already real. This is because the body doesn't know the difference between what's imagined vividly and what's actually occurring. The result? Chronic stress, unnecessary fear, and wasted energy that could have been used to build peace instead of panic. Jesus echoed the same truth when he said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." Each day has enough trouble of its own. This isn't just spiritual guidance, it's psychological wisdom. Worrying about what might happen adds nothing but weight to your shoulders. It pulls you out of the only place where strength and clarity exist, the present moment. To stop suffering from imaginary pain, you must learn to bring your awareness back to now. Epictetus taught that our power lies in our ability to choose our response, not just to events, but to our own thoughts. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Sovereign, and sometimes the thing you need to react to is the storm inside your own mind. When you catch yourself spiraling into future fears or past regrets, stop and ask, is this real or is this a projection? Take Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. Locked in a concentration camp facing death daily, he wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." He refused to suffer twice, once from the reality of the camp and again from imagined terrors. He stayed rooted in the moment, focused on what he could control, his thoughts, his attitude, his soul. And in doing so, he found meaning in the midst of horror. We can follow the same path. Instead of letting your mind drag you into false futures, anchor it. When fear arises, meet it with the question, what is true right now? When regret returns, remind yourself, that moment is gone. But this one is still mine. When your thoughts race ahead, pause and breathe. Return to your senses. Feel the ground beneath you. Look at what's actually in front of you, not what your mind is inventing. Because if you don't master your imagination, it will master you. You don't have to suffer twice. Reality is already hard. Don't let your thoughts make it harder.
Number 3.
Embrace impermanence. One of the greatest illusions we live under is the belief that things will last forever, that the people we love will always be near, that our youth will always stay, that the life we have now will continue unchanged. But reality tells a different story. Everything is fleeting. And the sooner you accept that, the freer and more peaceful you become. The Stoics didn't see impermanence as a tragedy. They saw it as truth, a truth that, when embraced, makes life richer, not poor. Marcus Aurelius meditated on death every day, not because he was morbid, but because he understood that to truly live, you must acknowledge that life is temporary. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." These weren't idle words. He faced plague, war, and the death of his own children. And yet, in the face of loss, he chose presence. He chose to savor moments instead of clinging to them. That is the core of embracing impermanence. You stop grasping and you start appreciating. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally detached or cold. On the contrary, it means loving more deeply because you understand the fragility of what you love. It's about looking at someone and realizing, I don't own this moment, but I get to experience it, so I won't waste it. Jesus demonstrated this on the night before his crucifixion. He didn't panic or run. He gathered his disciples, broke bread, and offered peace. My peace I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled. He embraced the impermanence of life, and in doing so, made every moment count. In our modern lives, we tend to do the opposite. We scroll past beauty. We delay presence. We try to freeze time through photos, possessions, or control, but all of it slips through our fingers anyway. The Stoic knows this. That's why they practice memento mori. Remember that you must die, not to depress the soul, but to awaken it. When you live with the awareness that nothing lasts, you also awaken to this truth. Everything matters more. Take Steve Jobs, who said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." He wasn't a Stoic philosopher, but he understood their logic. Death, uncertainty, and change strip away the noise. What remains is what's essential, what's true. That clarity is what the Stoics chase daily. So the next time you find yourself clinging, whether to a person, a plan, or a version of yourself, pause. Ask, am I loving this moment, or am I trying to freeze it? Life moves, and you must move with it. The goal is not to hold time still, but to walk through it with grace, knowing it's all on loan. When you embrace impermanence, you no longer fear the end, you honor the middle. You start to show up fully. You let go of control and discover something more powerful, peace. Not because things last, but because you finally learn to live as if they don't.
Number 4.
Master the art of detachment. There's a subtle kind of pain that lingers beneath the surface. Not because of what's happening, but because of what we refuse to release. We cling tightly to control, to outcomes, to how people should treat us, to how life should unfold. But the tighter we grip, the more peace slips through our fingers. The Stoics knew this deeply. True serenity doesn't come from getting everything you want. It comes from learning how to let go of what you never truly controlled in the first place. Epictetus said it best. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That insight, though simple, is life-changing. If something lies outside your control, someone's behavior, a missed opportunity, a public opinion, then anchoring your happiness to it is like tying your identity to the wind. You'll be moved, shaken, and broken by forces you were never meant to command. Instead, the wise person narrows their focus to what is theirs, their actions, their values, their mindset. This is the heart of Stoic detachment. Yet too often people mistake detachment for indifference. But they are not the same. Indifference is the absence of care. Detachment is the refusal to be enslaved by what you care about. It's the ability to love deeply without losing yourself, to pursue excellence without tying your self-worth to the results, to show up fully but leave the outcome to something greater than your ego. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. Jesus demonstrated this posture with profound grace. He did not chase approval. He did not force outcomes. He walked his path with clarity, acted in love, and then surrendered. Not my will, but yours be done. That wasn't giving up. It was letting go of control, trusting in a higher order, and refusing to let fear rule his next step. This spiritual detachment didn't make him passive. It made him powerful, because he was no longer reacting from ego, but from grounded truth. We can apply this same principle in modern life. Let's say you start a new project or business. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care whether it succeeds. It means you give your best without obsessing over validation. You do the work, not for applause, but because it aligns with your values. When you let go of needing things to unfold your way, ironically, you perform better. You become clearer, calmer, and more resilient. Think also of relationships. The more you try to control how others feel about you, the less connection you actually build. Detachment means you bring love, presence, and honesty to the table, but you stop trying to manage how someone responds. You allow space for what is true to emerge. That's where real peace begins. So ask yourself, what am I clinging to that no longer serves me? What outcome, opinion, or expectation is holding my peace hostage. Detachment doesn't ask you to feel less. It asks you to hold everything with open hands. Because when you no longer fear losing something, you begin to appreciate it fully. You stop living in tension and start living in flow. That's where your real power lives, not in holding on, but in knowing when to let go.
Number 5.
Practice daily reflection. In a world obsessed with speed, few stop long enough to ask, why am I living this way? We chase goals. We react to emotions. We survive the day. But without reflection, life becomes a blur. You may wake up one day successful but hollow, surrounded but disconnected. That's why the Stoics treated reflection not as an optional luxury, but as a daily necessity. Because self-awareness, they believed, is the birthplace of peace. Seneca, one of the most practical Stoics, ended every day with this quiet ritual, reviewing his actions, thoughts, and emotions. He didn't wait for crisis. He asked himself, what did I do well? Where did I fall short? And how can I be better tomorrow? Not to shame himself, but to realign. He called this his nightly audit of the soul. Sure, it wasn't dramatic, it was deliberate. And over time, it shaped a life of discipline and clarity. In modern terms, think of reflection like tuning a musical instrument. Even the best instruments go out of tune with daily use. The same is true for your mind and character. Without regular tuning, you drift. You start reacting from stress instead of wisdom. You lose sight of what matters. Reflection brings you back to center. It reconnects you with your core values, those quiet truths that often get drowned out by busyness and noise. This practice isn't limited to the Stoics. Jesus too regularly withdrew from the crowds, not to escape, but to reconnect. He often went alone to pray, to reflect, to listen. Before he took action in the world, he grounded himself within. That rhythm of stepping back, reflecting deeply, then returning with renewed clarity is universal. It is the rhythm of wisdom. You don't need hours of solitude or a perfect journaling method. Just 5 minutes of honest stillness can change your direction. Ask yourself, what emotion dominated me today, and why? Did I treat others with dignity? Did I speak from ego or from truth? Did I make time for what truly matters, or just what was urgent? These questions strip away noise and return you to essence. Take a moment and think about how many days you've lived without really experiencing them. When you reflect, you reclaim those lost days. You extract their lessons. Even a bad day becomes valuable because it taught you something. As Marcus Aurelius put it, don't waste the rest of your life worrying about what others think or what you cannot control. Instead, be concerned with how you use each moment. The reflection helps you see if you're doing that. It's easy to fill your schedule, but can you also fill your soul? Reflection is how you keep your life aligned with your intentions. Without it, success can turn hollow and failure can go unredeemed. Reflection isn't weakness. It's how strong people stay strong. It's how the wise refine their path while the rest keep running in circles. And when practiced daily, it becomes your compass, a quiet voice reminding you who you are and where you're going. Number 6, cultivate inner peace. Peace doesn't come from a quiet environment. It comes from a quiet mind. You can be in the middle of chaos and still be at ease if your soul is anchored. Conversely, you can be sitting in silence and feel completely overwhelmed if your mind is at war with itself. The Stoics knew this well. That's why they didn't wait for life to calm down. They trained themselves to create calm from within, because to them, peace was not a passive state. It was a daily discipline. Marcus Aurelius faced a life filled with constant demands, war, political betrayal, loss. But each morning he sat with his journal and reminded himself what mattered. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Eduardo, that single sentence is the cornerstone of Stoic peace. The world may be unpredictable, but your thoughts, your values, your responses, those are yours to command. And when you take command of them, You don't need the world to give you peace. You bring peace to the world. This same principle echoes in the teachings of Jesus. In the Gospel of John, he tells his followers, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." That peace wasn't conditional. It didn't depend on circumstances. It was the kind of peace that comes from alignment. When your actions match your values, when your faith outweighs your fear, when your purpose is clear even if the path is not. But cultivating this kind of peace takes work. It requires constant attention to the landscape of your inner world. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind? What voices am I allowing to define my identity? What unresolved emotions am I carrying from day to day? Never releasing, never questioning. Seneca wrote that a mind in harmony brings peace. Harmony, not perfection. It means your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in sync. Not that they're flawless, but that they're honest. You aren't pulled in 100 directions by impulses, opinions, or past wounds. You've made a home within yourself, and from that home you live, not react. Even in modern times, this lesson holds. Think of Fred Rogers. Yes, Mr. Rogers. He wasn't just a gentle television host. He was a deeply reflective man. He started every day with silence, prayer, and contemplation. He said, "Peace means far more than the opposite of war. It means the presence of justice, of order, and of love." His calm demeanor wasn't natural. It was practiced, cultivated, protected, and it became contagious. So, if you want inner peace, don't wait for life to slow down. Start by slowing down your mind. Create rituals of stillness. Filter the noise you allow in. Build habits that align with your values. Speak less but with more intention. And above all, learn to sit with yourself. Not to fix or judge, but to simply listen. Because once you find peace within, no one can take it from you. It becomes your foundation, your compass, and your quiet strength in a loud, confused world. Number 7, develop resilience through adversity. Everyone wants strength, but few are willing to earn it. We want confidence, composure, wisdom, but we don't want to face the fire that forges them. Yet the Stoics knew that resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build moment by how you choose to respond to difficulty. As Epictetus said, difficulties show what men are. In other words, the obstacle isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. Adversity is not what breaks you. It's what reveals you. Resilience isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of perspective. The Stoics didn't avoid suffering. They embraced it as a form of training. When life became harder, they asked themselves, what strength is this moment calling for? Instead of asking, why me? They asked, how can I grow from this? That shift from resistance to responsibility is the foundation of unshakable strength. Take Marcus Aurelius, who led Rome through plague, war, and betrayal. Most would have collapsed under that pressure. But he used those trials as a spiritual gym. Every setback became a test of character. He reminded himself daily, if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. That wasn't coldness, it was clarity. He understood that strength doesn't come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from choosing your attitude within difficulty. In modern life, the same truth applies. When you go through loss, disappointment, or failure, the temptation is to give up or collapse inward. But if you meet those moments with courage, you become someone new, someone deeper, more grounded. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who faced rejection, abuse, and poverty. She said, turn your wounds into wisdom. That's resilience, not forgetting the pain, but using it as fuel to rise higher. Jesus modeled this too. He didn't promise a life without suffering. He promised a way through it. He walked into rejection, into injustice, into the cross. Not because he wanted to suffer, but because he understood the transformative power that comes from enduring with purpose. His strength was not avoidance. It was acceptance paired with mission. So what does it look like to build resilience in your own life? It starts with changing your relationship to pain. Instead of running from discomfort, you meet it. You breathe through it. You learn from it. You stop labeling struggle as failure and start treating it as preparation. Each time you go through something difficult without breaking, without becoming bitter or closed, you stretch your capacity for peace and power. Seneca put it this way: a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. I know life will bring the friction. That part is guaranteed. What's not guaranteed is who you become through it. Will you be hardened or will you be honed? The choice is yours every day. Resilience is not one grand moment of triumph. It's 1,000 small decisions to show up, to stay grounded, to keep going when quitting would be easier. And over time, those decisions forge something that no one can give you and no one can take away. A quiet, unshakable strength. Number 8, don't create your upsets. Most people believe their pain is caused by the world, but much of what hurts us wasn't done to us. It was created by us. We magnify small slights. We overthink casual comments. We tie our peace to unstable people and then wonder why we're constantly shaken. The Stoics knew this tendency well. That's why they warned, if you're not careful, your mind will become your greatest enemy. As Epictetus wrote, men are disturbed not by things but by the view they take of them. When this insight is profound and uncomfortable, because it means the problem is often not what happened, but what we told ourselves about it. A late reply becomes rejection. A correction becomes an attack. A bad day becomes a bad life. We build stories around events, and then we live inside those stories. In doing so, we suffer twice. Once from the event, and again from our interpretation of it. Marcus Aurelius echoed this when he said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Emma, that's the liberating truth. You can't always change what happens, but you can change the meaning you assign to it. And by doing so, you reclaim your peace from the grip of overreaction. Jesus also warned against the noise of overthinking. Do not worry about your life. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? He wasn't dismissing difficulty. He was challenging our mental habit of making things worse than they are. Worry, overanalysis, and emotional storytelling often do more harm than the problem itself. So how do you stop creating your own upsets? First, by noticing, watch your thoughts. Pay attention to when your story runs ahead of reality. Did the person actually disrespect you? Or did you interpret their silence as rejection? Did life really fall apart? Or did you just refuse to adjust your expectations? Next, question your narrative. The Stoics didn't take their emotions at face value. They interrogated them. Is this within my control? What's the most generous interpretation of this? Will this matter in a week, a year, a lifetime? These questions rewire your response from automatic to intentional, and that's where freedom begins. Even great minds today practice this. Byron Katie, known for the work, teaches people to identify and question their stressful thoughts until they dissolve. She said, "It's not the problem that causes our suffering, it's our thinking about the problem." This modern reflection of Stoicism reminds us that mastery over the mind is still the most powerful form of self-defense. At the heart of it, this lesson is about clarity. You can't live a peaceful life if your thoughts are constantly distorting reality. When you clean up your interpretation, you clean up your emotional world. Life becomes simpler, not because the world changed, but because you did. Don't be the architect of your own misery. Catch yourself in the act of exaggeration, assumption, and false judgment, and stop the suffering where it begins, in the mind. Number 9, focus on the how, not the what. In a world obsessed with outcomes, most people chase the wrong prize. They fixate on what they want to achieve, status, wealth, recognition, while ignoring how they go about it. But the Stoics taught the opposite. They believed that true excellence lies not in results, but in the method. Not in the trophy, but in the way you carried yourself on the way there. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The Stoics didn't condemn ambition. They simply redefined success. To them, the only real failure was to act without integrity. You could win the race, but lose your soul in the process. That's why they focused not on outcome, but on action. How did you pursue your goal? With patience or with desperation? With discipline or deceit? With clarity or chaos? The answers to these questions mattered more than the outcome itself. Jesus echoed the same wisdom. He didn't measure people by what they accomplished. He looked at how they loved, how they forgave, how they lived. He told stories of people who gave little but gave with heart, of those who lost the world but gained peace. In his teaching, the way you act, the spirit behind the action, was the real measure of your worth. What will it profit a man, he asked, if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? Modern life often pulls us away from this principle. We celebrate speed, hustle, and achievement, even if it comes at the cost of our values. We admire the success story without asking how it was written. But when the process is neglected, the result becomes hollow. You get what you wanted, but you don't respect who you became. That's why Stoicism brings the attention back to process. Marcus Aurelius, ruling during pandemics and political betrayal, constantly reminded himself, if it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Simple, clear, ruthless in discipline. He never outsourced his morality to the result. He returned day after day to the how he showed up, how he handled conflict, how he ruled with justice even when no one else did. This mindset applies to everything. How do you speak to others when you're stressed? How do you handle money, failure, or criticism? How do you pursue your goals when no one's watching? These are the places where character is built or broken, and they matter more than the highlight reel. Consider Maya Angelou. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. The how lasts longer than the what. And when you focus on it, you build something much more lasting than achievement. You build a reputation, a legacy, a soul. In the end, outcomes come and go. You can't always control them. But the way you move through the world, that's yours. And when the how is right, the outcome takes care of itself. Number 10, prioritize rationality over emotions. Emotions are powerful. They fuel our deepest passions and connect us to the world. But if left unchecked, they can also sabotage our clarity, distort our decisions, and lead us down paths we later regret. That's why the Stoics didn't seek to destroy emotion. They sought to master it. Their goal wasn't to become emotionless robots. It was to anchor themselves in reason, especially when emotions ran high. As Seneca wrote, no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. In adversity, it's not emotion, but rational thought that keeps you upright. At the heart of Stoicism lies one fundamental principle. Emotions are not the problem. Unexamined emotions are. Anger, fear, jealousy, anxiety, they're not evil, but they must be questioned. Marcus Aurelius didn't suppress his emotions, he examined them. In his meditations, he wrote about recognizing a feeling, then asking, is this useful? Does this help me serve others? Am I acting from clarity or compulsion? These reflections didn't weaken him. They gave him power. Because power without reason is just chaos in disguise. In today's world, we are taught to obey our feelings. Follow your heart, but the Stoics would respond, follow your principles and question your heart when it's unsteady. Emotional intensity doesn't equal truth. Sometimes the thing that feels urgent is just your ego screaming for validation. That's why rationality is so essential. It's not coldness, it's guidance, a compass in emotional storms. Jesus also modeled this. He wept, he felt, But he never let his emotions override his mission. When faced with betrayal, he didn't lash out. When mocked, he didn't respond in rage. He taught restraint, mercy, and deliberate action. "Father, forgive them," he said, not because it felt good, but because it was right. That is the harmony of emotion and reason, not repression, but rulership. So how do you live this principle? Start by separating the signal from the noise. When you feel something intense, pause. Don't act. Don't post. Don't speak. Ask, what am I feeling and why? Is this fear or truth, ego or wisdom? Give yourself space to see the full picture. That space is where reason lives. Even modern thinkers embrace this idea. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That space is the difference between reaction and reason. It's the birthplace of wisdom. Now, this doesn't mean you won't feel upset. It means you learn to delay your reaction until reason has had its say. You act not from a wounded place, but from a wise one. You become the calm in the chaos, the steady voice in a room full of noise. Not because you're numb, but because you're clear. When you lead with reason, you don't just make better decisions, you build a better life. One that isn't tossed by every mood, manipulated by every trigger, or shaped by every insult. You live from principle, not from impulse. That's real strength. When you live by these principles, you stop being controlled by chaos and start becoming the calm within it. The Stoics didn't escape the storms of life. They stood still inside them. And so can you? Choose presence over panic, wisdom over reaction, purpose over impulse. If this video helped bring clarity to your path, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this peace too. Your inner stillness is your greatest power. Protect it, cultivate it, and carry it with strength.